what's new with you?
I'm really proud I'm here.
So am I.
Really proud I'm here.
Opening week is like.
My life,
it's
yeah,
like
my
the
life
end.
was about surviving that. So my
Yeah.
goal was to make it to last Sunday. And then you try to find your way back and,
Yeah,
and then figure out what you're actually supposed to be doing,
yeah,
you know?
I do know that feeling.
Um,
We're in the 10th week, I still haven't figured out the 9th week.
Yeah.
Well,
so that was my morning, actually. It was a couple hours of leadership group trying to be like, okay, you know, we got to debrief on everything that happened, but like now that we're through it, 50 new staff going through opening day
Holy
for the
cow.
first time.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's always the hardest part, the hardest time of the year is those few weeks.
Especially after last year when everyone. went
Yeah,
away.
well, and we haven't really done a full show
Come on in.
in a couple years. And so trying to get through that. And then it's still weird with COVID. There's still, you know, you can't do the blue carpet. So you find different ways. And so I'm really thankful that we're through it and proud we got through it. Now we need to actually figure out what we're supposed to be doing though.
Winning. That's what they're supposed to be doing.
Listen,
Winning.
you sound like my mother. I'm like, Mom, it's the one thing I can't do anything about. And I will tell you, the one thing about marketing in the sports industry, and I've worked in a lot of different industries. When the president asked me to take this job, I looked at him and I said, so let me get this straight. You want me to be responsible for marketing a product I can't control?
Good
Because
times.
unlike other industries, right, you're focused on product and the qualities, and I don't really know what you're gonna get today, guys. But I know it will be unpredictable and it will be exciting. And we will deliver a premier hockey experience tonight. That much I know.
What more? Well,
Everything else, just wing it. So,
everyone, I am super excited to welcome you here. So my name is Nicole Kraft. Those of you who do not know me, I am the director of the Ohio State Sports and Society Initiative. I'm also a faculty member in the School of Communication. I teach journalism, sports writing, sports media relations, media law and ethics, and news writing. This is my intern, Mackenzie, who has helped facilitate all of the activities that we're here to do today. So thank you in advance. So our goal with Sports and Society is to do many things. We provide research opportunities, we develop classes, we bring in really great speakers I'm going to get to in a second. We have another event that's happening next Friday, which is with a sampling of football parents who are going to talk about social media persecution among student athletes and what we need to do about it. They have an organization called Life Over Logo. So if you're interested in that, that starts at 11 o'clock at the Union on the 3rd floor in the cartoon room. There will also be food there. Box lunches for the first 25 people who come. But today I'm so excited. I look forward to this all semester to welcome my friend and colleague who I work with at the Blue Jackets. This is Kathryn Dobbs, who, what employee number are you?
oh, I have no idea. I would totally fail
You've
HR
been
right
there
now.
quite some time now.
Yeah,
Yes.
actually, I just realized it was my 7th home opener. And I've never been anywhere that long, like literally never lived anywhere that long, never been in a house this long, my entire life.
Really?
Yes, my entire life. I've now surpassed and been in one place.
That's
So I
wonderful.
changed the paint in my house a lot. I'm like, I need a change.
Yeah.
People are waiting and I'm like, nah, I'm pretty sure I've got my hands full right now.
But you've had cool jobs within that framework of the Jackets. So
Yeah.
Kathryn is with the Columbus Blue Jackets and she was with the foundation and now she's in charge of everything, I think. There goes JD, Yarmo, and then Kathryn. Pretty much.
Actually, technically it's JD, me,
Oh,
and the other senior VPs.
and
Yeah,
then Yarmo's like, out in the
that
house.
only gets me kudos in my family.
It gets
nowhere
us
else.
kudos here,
Nowhere
too.
else. So, yeah.
So the reason that we invite really amazing people who do amazing things is for you to see that there's amazing careers out there for you and there's amazing contacts here in Columbus and in professional sports, in sports across the country actually, who would like to help you achieve your dreams. And so this is the goal for you to have the opportunity to ask Kathryn questions that might relate to if you want to work in philanthropy in sports. She has a lot of experience with that and sports marketing, what it's like to work for an NHL team, the amount of hours that it really takes to work for a professional team, how many lack of off-season days you actually get, all of the pieces that go into working in professional sports. So welcome, Kathryn. We're so happy that you're
Thanks
here.
for having me.
Could
This
you
is like a great breakup in my day. So,
Could you help them understand kind of your journey and how you got to
Sure,
where you
sure.
are?
Yeah, and I think what's fun when I get to have conversations with people is my journey to the NHL is very unique relative to most of my colleagues. When I started with the team in 2015, I was and still am the only executive around the table that didn't come through sports. Never worked in professional sports prior to starting with the Blue Jackets in 2015. I am Canadian, grew up in Northern Ontario, was born in Winnipeg, but grew up in Northern Ontario. Therefore, I feel qualified already. It's like we're born that way, so we think we can. But, you know, as part of the discussion and questions, I think that's a really important part because a lot of people go into sports management and often the journey into sports starts with, you know, that internship in college and getting into often the ticketing side, which is grinding, amazing work that the staff amazes me each and every day. The things that they do, and people tend to work their way up and move around and do those things. And so, you know, I'm proof there are other ways. I think the reality of the reason I had the opportunity I had was because at the time, the Blue Jackets were looking for a unique set of skills that reached into philanthropy and fundraising in an area most people in sports don't have. And so that was really my in. And then the fact of the matter for me was I am a day one Blue Jackets fan. So I just told you I'm from Northern Ontario, Canada. This team's been around for over 20 years now. People often don't believe me when I tell them, but this is my second stint in Ohio. So I've told you I've never stayed anywhere very long. But my first time in Ohio, I moved here in 2000, the inaugural season of the Blue Jackets. Grew up loving junior hockey. My first job was in a hockey rink, junior A, junior B, loved every second of it. And really that was my time and passion. And to this day, the World Juniors is absolutely my favorite hockey each and every year. And my goal, I'm going to say it out loud, is that Columbus hosts the World Juniors. That is on my list of pipe dreams here for this community, because I just, it's some of the greatest hockey you'll see in the up and coming talent all around the world. And so when I moved here in 2000, I was like, you know what, I'm going to follow these Blue Jackets. They're new. My brother would come down. All my family's in Canada. They would come down. We would go to the games and we were so amazed. You know, where we grow up, arguably comparable to football here. You have a lot of experts. Everyone's an expert in hockey where I come from. And so it's a tough environment. And if you don't win, it's a really big deal. And so to come to this community, watch them adopt an NHL franchise and a small market that really wasn't educated on the game of hockey, and to see the passion and commitment and support was amazing. And to this day, my brother lives in Waterloo, Ontario, and die-hard Columbus Blue Jacket fan because of the experience here. The thing about our franchise is, you know, we've struggled, you know, the way they do the expansion now. Vegas, Seattle, come on, right? You get a team ready. We had to scratch and claw to get out the gate, and so it's taken a long time. And so getting the team to this point where, you know, they build up, and so now we're in a different place and a different time, and I happen to be able to get in. It's a really unique time for the Blue Jackets. So thought I married my very favorite things when I started working for the Blue Jackets. Prior to the Blue Jackets, I was 12 years with the YMCA, various YMCAs around the country, mostly doing fundraising and development. And in 2005, I was working for the Mansfield Y, north of Columbus, and following hockey and learned that they had a foundation. I was like, wow, man, I could marry not just hockey and philanthropy, but also my very favorite hockey team in the whole wide world. And so in 2005, I went online, I filled out the profile in case the job ever opened up. My journey took me to Virginia and New York with the Y and all around. And I always thought, man, the NHL needs to do more work to grow the game of hockey, and held on to that. And I was living on a YMCA resident camp in New York in the Catskills. No cell service, in a cabin, much like where I come from. So I liked it, and it's not for everyone. And I got a call from YUSA and they said, hey, the Columbus Y needs a chief development officer. You're a Blue Jackets fan. He was a Blackhawks fan. I said, I'm a Blue Jackets fan. I'll look at Columbus. And so I came out here and I talked to the Y. And when I flew out here, they took me to a Blue Jackets game and they wowed me with this thing that they knew that they loved. And at that time, word was out in the Y world that I was looking. And so I started to get some different offers around the country and people in this community. Tom Katzenmeyer, my goodness. You want an ambassador for a city? That guy called me all the time. We want you to come to Columbus. We want you to come to Columbus. It was an amazing experience to see the way this community rallied very proudly. And so as I was trying to find my way and figure out, at this point, I was a single mom. My daughter was 5 at the time. Like, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? At this point, I've been living in the States for a while. And so while I was thinking about it, I got a call one evening on a landline in my cabin. And the voice said, hi, this is Curtis McElhenney from the Columbus Blue Jackets. Wasn't very cool in the moment. I was like, hey. I was like, why is this guy calling me? He said, my wife and I are members of the local Y. We understand that you're interviewing. We just want to tell you we think you'd be a great addition to our community. Wow. He said, if you're in Columbus and want a tour of the arena, give me a call. I was like, what's your cell phone number? I can have it in a moment. Really amazing commitment to get that. I hung up. I called the CEO. He answered. I said, well played. If that's not one of the most significant recruitment efforts I've ever seen. What Curtis doesn't know to this day, subsequently got to know Curtis and his wife. What he doesn't know to this day is I accepted the job 30 minutes before he called me. And I am so glad. Because if I ever thought, right? Well, it's like, if I ever thought that actually made me choose, that's not really cool, right? Like, so the fact that at least I had accepted already before he did that. And so made my way out. My first call was to the Blue Jackets. I've been saving up my speech. No one does better, in my opinion. Youth development than the YMCA. You need to grow hockey in this market, and I can help you do it. And I called the gal, Jen, who was running the foundation at the time. I was like, look, you don't know me. I know this is a small town, but like, we got to talk. And she said, okay, when? And I said, how about now? And I got up from my desk and I walked however many blocks, right, over to the arena, took our director of annual giving. And she's like, what are we doing? I'm like, come on. And I gave what I thought was like my 12-year speech. Had my moment. We can do this. This is going to be great. She said, okay. She gave us a grant. We started a program called Skills and Drills, which we still do this to this day. And 3 months later, went back, started a reading program for kids in childcare centers called Time Out to Read, partnership with PNC Bank. Got another grant for that. And I'm like, I left the arena that day like I have lived my dream to be able to do this. And I was in town 6 months and my phone rang and it was the foundation board chair. And she said, I don't know if you remember me. Of course I knew who she was. And it was Kathy Little, if you know Kathy. And so she said, the foundation person is leaving the Jackets and your name has come up. And I wondered if you'd be interested in having a conversation. I said nothing because I was speechless. She goes, are you there? I said, my direct quote back to her, I said the only thing I would ever leave the YMCA for is this job at the Columbus Blue Jackets. And so she said, well, we should have a conversation. And that day I got an email from Teamwork Online of alerts and sports jobs. And it struck me that I had filled that out 12 years earlier, in case that job ever opened up. By the way, they never posted that job. There was never an alert. And there I stood, my journey having taken me all around this country, back in a place. And so I feel like the luckiest person in the world went, made a commitment, loved every second, still love that side, wish I had more time for it. Was responsible. I was executive director of the foundation and VP of community relations for the foundation, and started doing so much work on that stick in hand side, right? And like, we go in, we can introduce kids, we could do stuff, and there's a fan development department. So they came back a year or so later and they're like, hey, you seem to be really focused on this. Why don't you take this too? So we grew the department from 3 people to 8 people, just did amazing, very fun things until Almost 3 years ago, coming up on 3 years in this position that the president asked me to take on this role. Took 3 weeks, I think, to accept because I was terrified, still am most of the time. Knew enough to know how hard this job would be. And so really wanted to sort of process that. And then as part of that, I put my request back, which is that we went to market with a brand perception study, understand where this team is, market analysis. And he said, great, then I want you to build a new brand platform. And so that has been my journey in the last 3 years. It's been gone a little sideways with COVID, launched a new brand, didn't finish the season, held on with the staff we had. And really since July, now my job is to relaunch it and find my way. The responsibility for 8 departments of the Blue Jackets, of 6 direct reports. My job is to make sure they have the resources they need, remove the barriers in the way, help them navigate when they want to get stuff done, and a commitment to the entire organization with the new brand platform to strengthen the brand, broaden the base. If we're doing anything that doesn't do those 2 things, I'm not doing my job.
Questions, guys? Who wants a job in sports? You guys want to be watching this?
Yeah.
Introduce yourselves.
Tell
Kathryn,
me.
what you would like to
Why are
do.
you here?
What an amazing story. Want to start? You want a job in sports? No? Okay.
I'll start in the middle.
Okay, let's
Oh,
start.
there you go.
Okay. Well, I do want to work in sports. I want to do sports photography. So
Okay.
actually, Gabe and I both work for the
This is John
Lantern.
Rockerman's son.
Oh gosh. I feel like we're family.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
So he's my co-partner at the Lantern. We both do photography. But I want to work in, I think it's either football or hockey for me that I want to shoot for eventually. I'd like to work for a team, but I know there's like freelancing opportunities as well. And you know, I've been to a few Blue Jackets games. I see everybody down the hole. And I'm like, I want to be that person. So hopefully I get there. But I saw that you were from the Columbus Blue Jackets, so I was like, I want to come here.
Awesome.
And see what you. Well, I already know.
I'm Gabe Hackerman. I work with her at the Lantern. I'm really interested in getting a sports media job. I've had a lot of other like freelance opportunities like video, photography. So I'm kind of just looking to either combine it or go one way or another. I don't have any preference right now. I'm looking at my options to get it in some.
Great.
But I also saw that you work for the Blue Jackets. I think I've been in maybe once or twice.
2 years ago.
Yeah, I was really interested in coming in.
Awesome. Glad you're here.
Kyler Cummins, I'm a finance and economics student. I will be joining an investment banking group in New York, so won't necessarily be working in sports immediately, but I've been a sports fan my whole life. And would maybe want to exit out banking eventually, and maybe possibly into like you do player analysis on players, on how many seats they're going to fill and stuff like that. So you can sort of do discounted cash flows on players, which is really interesting. I've heard front offices doing that. I think there's a firm in Cleveland that does it specifically for like the Cleveland Indians. I know the Guardians now. I was told about that, so I think that'd be interesting eventually.
Yeah, and if you work for a big enough company, they may have a relationship with sports teams, right? Often that's the case too. So even if it's not a direct relationship, often there's an indirect one.
I'm Ryan Schaefer. I'm a first year in finance. And I just think I'd love to work in a sports company or something more like the front office. Or the media too.
Awesome.
There's always no sports. I would like to work.
So I mean, if ideally there was a way where I could use that in like some sort of sports setting, like I'm really interested in like football or ski capacity. I feel like that'd be really cool.
It's always a finance department.
Yeah, I'm a finance student too. We're buddies, we're roommates. So.
And the finance people showing up today.
Yeah, so we're both second years and we're business scholars here at Ohio State. And we heard about this opportunity to come talk to
I think, I don't know, just speaking for myself, I don't really know what I want to do when I'm older. So, just getting exploring horizons and seeing what opportunities there are. I think it's good to just come out and talk to people like you and see.
Yeah, because you really never know. The half the jobs I've done, I hadn't heard of and didn't know they were a thing, and we all don't know how I got here, so thank goodness for those experiences.
Yeah, for sure.
Jack, my first year, I enjoyed being I'm interested in sports. Jack.
Right.
I'm Holly Winter, and I'm a fourth year in new media communications, and I'm really interested in basically the overall media stuff with like social media, video production. I just had like my first shift with video production, and I really have never done that before, and I actually really enjoyed it.
Maddie Smith, and I'm kind of saying like social media, not as much video production, but kind of like social media teams. I think the past couple of years, you really see on Instagram, a lot of teams are creating accounts, and it's a lot bigger than it was before. I think that's really interesting. Also marketing. I've taken a few classes about it. I think that's something that I'd like to get into, but I'm not entirely sure. There's so many different things that you can do with it. So still kind of figuring it out.
A lot of options.
I'm from economics, and actually I want to get a job in sports, but not is in the esports. I think there must be something similar to the different sports, and so I come here and I want to get the information.
Yeah, well, we have CBJ gaming actually. So NHL is relatively far behind in gaming in general relative to some of the other leagues. When it comes to the NHL, actually, we're one of the leaders. It helps when you have gaming champions living in your community like Nasher and Top Shelf Cookie. And so it is 100%. And from a fan development perspective, the one thing we know about the gamers is their knowledge of our players and stats is as good as anybody's. Their connection to the brand, while they're connecting in a different way, super important. That's under my watch too, as we try and figure out how to continue to grow that. So it's a great area.
Do they only play NHL? Or do they play all types of games?
Depends who they is.
Or
So
I guess like the CBJ game.
So CBJ gaming isn't just NHL. The NHL is hosting an annual tournament. So I mentioned Nasher and Top Shelf. Top Shelf Cookie was a recent winner there. That is all Chell, so they'll play. But when we're on Twitch for that. Again, not a place I spend a great deal of time. But it's any game you can imagine. It doesn't have to be sports. And so it raises a question all the time of even our athletes when we want to engage and do some fun content. While we're always trying to promote the sport and the interest in the sport, a lot of them are playing a bunch of other games. And so it's a regular conversation about what we're playing and who's playing it. So.
My name is Maya Tan. I'm in second year. I'm double majoring in journalism and business and specializing in marketing. And yeah, I'm really interested in like multimedia, social media, things like that. And so I just found it interesting to learn more about sports media. Then I went to like another person who speaks about sports media, and so it's really interesting. So I just want to learn more about it.
Yeah, I'm Shelly Benderson, and I'm a sport industry major. And I'm specifically interested in actually working with the Columbus Blue Jackets to help grow hockey in Central Ohio, because I'm actually from there, born and raised in a born and natural season. But
We
I
love you.
hockey. But the first time I ever got to hold a hockey stick was my senior year of high school. In my, I went to Columbus Public School, and it took that long to get sticks into every single school. And there's this like gap between the community that is a fan of Blue Jackets and a group of kids that could be fans of Blue Jackets and just don't have that introduction, and I want to help eliminate that.
Yeah.
Because there's no reason like why my neighbors' kids are like, oh my God, what's that? What are you voting? Like, why do you? It's so weird to you, like the Blue Jackets. Like, this is a team. This is like one of the few major teams we have in Columbus.
Yeah.
It's not weird for me to like a team that's ours. So I want to help eliminate the gap and like levels and other things. Like try to help grow hockey more. Like maybe try to work with Columbus Parks and Rec and open an ice rink in neighborhoods
So his father runs the hockey program at Columbus Parks and Rec.
Yeah, you
guys
guys,
might
you
wanna
guys should know
talk.
each other.
That was just like, a lot of the foreign communities, because I'm from there.
Yeah.
A lot of the reason why they can't play is too expensive.
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Columbus High School.
Okay.
So all the rooms are pretty much all in the north side of town. They're
Yeah.
not even in town, they're in the suburbs. They're disconnected from the bus line, and a lot of people are not there. So there's like nothing on the east side of town. I was on the
You
east
should
side.
have invited your dad.
I work on the east side of town in Eastmore, and the only rink I have access to is Easton, and that's like a 40-minute bus ride.
Yeah.
Just to learn how to skate. So I
We
went-
could spend an entire hour on the subject for sure, because this is also under, my oversight as well in trying to look at those things. There's a lot of different programs now, but the one that would probably interest you the most is through the NHL's Industry Growth Fund and helping to support small market teams, although they're pretty much supporting everyone. We established a program called Power Play Challenge. We worked with the school districts to understand the state curriculum requirements around health. And so we actually developed a curriculum that we could go in and hand schools, has 5 challenges associated, all associated with players and other things. We give an entire curriculum. We provide sticks and balls to all the kids in the program. And all of that is provided for free for the school districts. So we've now served 200,000, I think is the number. But trying to get those introductory, and then obviously the hardest part of that journey is you can get introduced, but then what? It's constantly a then what. We are short of ice in this community. We all know it. We have these conversations all the time. From my perspective, though, while I would love for everyone to play ice hockey, given the barriers to entry of the game, that we also have programs, free equipment, 5 to 8, you want to come, we'll give you head to toe equipment to get you to try. So there's other programs to do that. The reality is we're not going to be able to get what we need. So one of the goals and one of the areas of focus for the foundation is about how do you provide sticks and balls, one, to play in your own community, but also how do we grow street hockey in partnership with Columbus Recs and Parks and our ability to provide places for kids to go and try and get them into some kind of program. So there's the good news is there's a lot more opportunities for entry into the sport now in the community. We just have a very, very long way to go. And the interesting thing about winning is, while we're already trying to keep up with the interest in the sport and the number of kids we're putting through our Learn to Play programs, the more you win, the more people want to play, and you have to have a place to put them. So very, very aware of what are we going to do. It can be a great problem to have, when we really win. So lots of opportunity in this community to do and support everything you're talking about.
We have Zoom friends. You guys want to tell us who you are? Let's start with Tyler.
Hi, Kathryn. My name is Tyler Danberg. I'm a first-year journalism student. I'm an aspiring sports broadcaster. My goal long-term is to call games for a national network and for a Big Four professional sports team. But I was really interested to see what you had to say because you have such a well-rounded background with community relations and marketing and communications. And I'm all fascinated in all facets of that. So thank you for taking the time out, and I appreciate your insight.
Thanks, Tyler. Katie.
Hi, I'm Katie Popovich, and I'm double majoring in journalism and strategic communications with a minor in business. And I really want to do journalism or marketing for an NHL team. So it's really cool to hear your insight.
Oh, great.
Oh, go ahead.
I told her that you're coming Monday to cover the game with me.
So we have a grant reception.
Oh, yes.
On Monday.
Okay.
So if you want to come early and come to the grant reception and see that, we'll
Cool.
have remarks about what we're doing in the community and
What time's that?
it's 5:30 to 6:30, I think.
Okay.
So just let me know if you want to come
Cool.
to that.
That'd be awesome. I can't read. Renna. Renna, you there? How about Emma?
I'm here. Hi. I'm currently a major in strategic communications and my focus is in sports media. I really want to go into like the social media side of hockey specifically. I'm a huge Islanders fan, so I will be at the game tonight. But yeah, I'm a huge hockey fan. I specifically just want to go into social media on there, but yeah.
Great, thank you. Joshua? Okay. Kitong? Okay. McCoont? Sorry for mispronouncing your name.
That was right. My name is Mac. I go by Mac most of the time. I'm an economics major. I just wanted to see if you knew or had any experience with stuff like esports, because that's been gaining traction recently. So
Great, thank you. And you, Han? Okay.
All right.
So Kathryn, where are the jobs? I mean, in terms of, especially people who want to work in sports, and you've had such, a diverse kind of opportunities. Where should they be focusing themselves, and kind of what skills do we need to make sure they move through it?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the conversations that tends to come up, I mentioned the traditional path to sports, right? You get an internship, you start in ticketing, you work your way up, and you find your way. And depending on which area of interest, and you are quite diverse, I think there's some other ways that you can make the connection. That's why I brought up the example with your opportunity in New York, right? So people think the only way you can do it is if you start that way, or your heart is set on it, right? I want to go work for a team. I want to do this. But the reality is we have so many tentacles and relationships out in the community, like recreation and parks, like my own journey, right? I established a relationship and became known because of the community development side. And so one of the things I try to remind people is to, open your mind a little bit to the ways that you might enter. So, something like finance, I will say, and I've worked in various industries. I worked for a manufacturing company that did DC power equipment. I did tractors and combines and agricultural stuff out of college. I've worked in nonprofit. And so in sports, it's definitely a thing where they immediately go to people with a sports background. It's a disadvantage when you're trying to enter without any of that experience. I've battled that personally a little bit in my time there because I pushed back. People will often ask me, I was the only female executive when I started with the Jackets, and people focus on that. Like, what's that like? I'm like, forget that. That wasn't the hard part. The hard part was being the only person that didn't come from sports. So the frame of reference in the conversation, I'm like, you people think this is a sports thing, and the communication is everyone's issue. And so I have been mindful in my time to be open to those other experiences, because I think there's a lot of people that I work with every day, have been there a long time. They're really, really good at their job and they know a lot. So I'm trying to bring in the different skills, but that's me as a hiring manager. I wear that hat. Now I have come to appreciate more than when I started, when someone does have an experience and understanding, particularly because of the hours and the commitment in sports. And the hours are ridiculous, right? They're less ridiculous when you love it. And so
what's ridiculous?
15-hour days, game days. So I actually spoke, it's way better coming to talk to students at lunch than at 8 o'clock in the morning. I spoke to a class on Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock. Wow. Right. So I left my house at, 6:45, because also I had to figure out where to park and get there. And, now that was an away game, but, for me, I don't always get every piece of post game, but generally I watch the post. It's different now that we don't have John Tortorella, and I'm not waiting to see if we'll be fine. I used to have to watch post game to make sure that the NHL wasn't going to go, but so now it's not, quite the same. I can watch that the next day, but if I do that, that's a commitment through 10:30, right? And your days just start. I think I said I'm a single mom, right? So that's been an interesting journey to navigate sports and be able to do it. It's totally doable, but understand the commitment. So you talk about social media and certain positions like that. Holy moly, Like you want like no downtime. And the other thing, I love hockey. I'm not sure, I've never say never. I'm not sure that I would do this for another sport because I love hockey. But when you look at the commitment of game schedule, it's very different league to league. God bless those in baseball, because, and by the way, weather dependent. I'd jump off a cliff for that because, and then you look at football and, we've got 82 games, 41 home games. So when you look at staff, depending on the job that they're doing, broadcast, so, those that are calling the game to social media, to photography and everything, there's no regular weekend off, right? So everything is about your upcoming schedule, right? So we're home tonight. I keep forgetting we have a home game tonight. Home tonight, home on Saturday, right? So they sort of get Sunday off, but not really, because now you're reposting all the
Because there's a game
content,
Monday.
recutting it. Why? And then you're recutting everything from Saturday, and then we have a home game on Monday. So it's unusual, as part of the leadership team. Because of that, we have to be very, very careful in trying to support our staff with flexibility, with encouraging time off, with whatever you need to do. My daughter was at the game with me on Saturday, and our president came in and she said, "Could my mother please have Monday off?" Actually, she said, "I think you like me." She's 13. "I think you like me. Can my mom have, Monday off?" She was off school, and now I worked from home. I could not step away until 1 o'clock, which was fine. She was good. We shopped on Amazon for the afternoon. But that's it's very real stuff. I've got a position turning over. Job is probably posted in the foundation, actually. Great person, hate to lose. She's been foundation manager for 4 years. It's a lot of home games, running 50-50, managing volunteers. She has an opportunity to do something similar with COSI, great opportunity. And she's like, you can tell she's torn about leaving, but the commitment to be home during the pandemic, she was home, had more time, realized that was important. And, you make those judgment calls. And I think some of these jobs are only meant to be done for a certain amount of time. So that's very real. We joke about the off season. This particular off season sense of urgency for me personally was greater than it's ever been. I was anxious all off season. I think because we were coming back and we didn't know what we were coming back to. But you do try and get your vacations in the summer, and you manage those things. Leadership is important. I'm going to go to Cabo for American Thanksgiving. I say that because we just had Canadian Thanksgiving. So I'll meet my family. I'm going to go for a week. I will step away. It's in the middle of the season. Some people think that's crazy. Not when I've now been doing it for 7 seasons and I still keep coming back. So all that stuff is really important when you're thinking about it. But there's nothing wrong with coming into sports and doing something for a couple of years, having a team experience, going and doing something else that doesn't require that commitment, and coming back in years later. There's lots of different ways that this can look for people. Basic questions?
Do you have to travel that early?
I do not. Typically when the team goes on the road, we all say hallelujah, right? This is sort of like one piece. Okay, they're out of the building. We'll focus. Everything is about upcoming games, right? So you're planning. I enjoy going. I try to go to a couple each year. Sometimes I chaperone a trip for the foundation or something like that. It's important. It's important. So my responsibilities include game presentation. And so, and of course, when you take all the marketing stuff and the fan engagement and all those pieces, right? So that experience side of everything we're doing is important. So getting a chance to go travel, talk to other teams, see it, feel it, talk to their fans. We encourage, now with our staff, we would typically send them, like to Detroit. We played Detroit the other night. That's easy. You send a couple people up, you drive, you do whatever. So it's an important part for sure. But I don't have that commitment. But I have people on my team who are 100% at every one of those games. Based on the areas of interest that you mentioned. So more, typical business side, you've got, your finance and legal, and they kind of live, and then you've got your revenue departments and you've got your marketing departments, Blue Jackets. And so I have business intelligence, so you talk about analytics and talk about, opportunities that can look very, very different as well. There's a difference between the hockey operations analytics versus my analytics team as well. But then with game presentation, they're also doing video production and managing all in-game. I recently restructured as a result of the number of people that left the Blue Jackets during COVID. Our ownership was amazing to all of us, but people chose to leave during that time. And so in the spring, I mentioned we were hiring 50 people. That was an opportunity for me to look and consider how I might want to reorganize, and content being, a significant priority. I would say business intelligence and content, two major priorities. And so I was able to move some positions around and make some changes and hire an executive to handle content strategy for the organization, which is an area I felt like we really needed. Everyone touches it. And that's the thing, you don't have to work in digital. Some of the stuff that, even for photography, we've got digital team taking photos, we've got specific people taking photos, we've got production people. So, there's a lot of different ways you can get experience in those things. So, it can look very different, and you can get different experience without having to. So that's the one thing I would say with some of the areas of interest that you have is you might look for a digital media position or something, but there's a lot of different ways that departments would touch something. We haven't talked at all about corporate development or sponsorship. The revenue is under my colleague Kathryn, but there's a lot. The activation side, it's essentially all marketing, right? So you sign on a new sponsor, and then all the activation, everything that was required there, that requires a lot of support from my team. But in some cases, you end up with specialty positions because there's so much photography, or there's so much graphics design. Now, the way we've structured it, all that falls under my teams. I have oversight of PR and communications. And then I mentioned, so I still have oversight of the foundation, even though I no longer sit in the executive director role, fan development, community relations. And all of those intermix. I mean, you can imagine what happens on a game day. It takes every one of those departments, but yet you have a game presentation department taking the lead. So there's lots of different ways to skin a cat there.
Nice. Questions? Yeah.
I know popularity of hockey isn't necessarily the same as it is whether it's states or on the East Coast. What do you think that is for Ohio specifically? And I guess in the future, how is the Blue Jackets expanding?
Well, I would say, for one, history.
Yeah.
Right. In this market, first of all, if you're not exposed, it's hard to develop an affinity. If you are exposed, you're exposed to Pittsburgh or Detroit, right? We have a lot of people that even now, when Detroit's going to come to town, that's their affinity. You grow up with that, it. She's the wonderful example of where we are in our evolution here, because we finally have people that have been born and raised. You're seeing us sign and draft people who came up for our own program. Like, that's amazing. It also makes me feel very, very old. We just, Cole Sillinger's made his debut in 2002, I think. And Mike Sillinger, which, by the way, good job story. Back in my days when I used to come to the Blue Jackets game, they have all the stuff on the video board on Player Stock, and they were doing like favorite sayings. So when I went to Virginia to interview, I was interviewing with the YMCA. I went in, it was a director of annual giving position, but the entire executive team came in and interviewed me in a board meeting. It was very intimidating. And so I walk in this room, and the next thing you know, the COO comes in. He's like, "I've heard about you, so I came to see for myself." And I'm like, trying not to pass out, right? So they asked me a gazillion questions. I think I'm through, and then the COO looks at me and he goes, "Here in Southampton Roads, we don't like to lose. What do you have to say about that?" And I said, "Well, to quote a hockey player, Mike Sillinger, show me a good loser and he is a loser." COO got up and he goes, "Hire her by the end of the day." So I laughed, right? For years and years, I've laughed that I've used a Mike Sillinger quote for a job, and now here we are, and his son is is playing for us. So getting old.
Feeds filter.
Yeah. So, and then as it relates to the expansion, it's everything, right? So stick in hand is so important, right? If you have an affinity for the sport, the value on that as a customer and your interest is significant. Now, the one interesting thing to keep in mind is the one thing about kids playing hockey though is often they aren't around to go to games, right? So you balance that, but the importance of where we're going and what we're doing in everything we do in the marketing and our relationship now that our minor league team is Cleveland, and the opportunities we have in those markets in Dayton and others. The investment side, one of the pillars of the foundation, right, is youth hockey, so we can grow it there. Our sister company is the Chillers, so having those rinks, and you know, we don't have enough ice, but it's not insignificant that we've added another sheet up north, that facility. Every piece of what we do every day, and I mentioned the brand perception study and the market analysis as part of me coming in to do this job, and in reviewing that and looking at it, you know, we can see everything. We can see where we under index against other sports teams in the market and in the state. So for example, we under index in women. Okay, so one of my jobs, that's one of my targets. However, the reality is, an interesting thing about the state in this market is, if we did nothing else but focus on sports fans, that's all we need to do. And because the opportunity is so significant for the number of people that never been to a game, right? Or you love sports. Hockey for people can be hard to follow on TV. So it's not a natural thing to bring people in that way. But if we can get you to a game, the experience that we offer, and you know, we have one of the highest rated experiences in the league. Now, unfortunately, part of the reason for that is because we haven't had a winning team really to have the success. So we have to work really hard. We have to work really hard so that no matter who wins tonight, you're going to go to the game, you're going to have a really great time. Winning changes everything. You and I walked up together, right? And like I said, when you're winning, like I look really smart. I'm really good at my job when we're winning. You know when I'm not good at my job and everybody thinks I'm awful is when the team is not winning. How thankful am I that we won the first 2 games with a team, by the way, that is anticipated not to do well, right? So my whole team, we have to look at that right away and go, okay, what's the plan here? Do we up this experience? You know, what are the levers we're going to pull if the product isn't great? So there's so many different tentacles and so many different departments. But I said, our goals are broaden the base and strengthen the brand, every department. So if you're not doing something that's focused on those things, then, you know, we're not doing our job. But the opportunity is probably the most exciting part. So when people get overwhelmed, my own leadership team get overwhelmed, we're like, oh my God, there's so much work to do, right? All I can do is like imagine the opportunity we have. We have so much opportunity. And when you come to the game, and you will love it, I promise you, you're gonna love it. It's awesome. Unless you sit too close to the cannon and you're not prepared. That's my fair warning. So we have to get people there. Get people there.
Other questions?
We said you were talking about importing a new brand. I think that was the Out of Our Blue, right? And loyalty. How do you work with that now that like a lot of those guys are now gone and the team is still young?
Yeah, so loyalty is an interesting reference. So that was only an opening video in 2019. So the brand structure itself is not rooted in the loyalty side. It was a play in the moment because of where the team was, and also because also part of my job is to manage the national perception of our market, right? And we're doing a number of different things, particularly in lieu of some of the players who've recently left. And listen, we can argue whether or not it's Columbus or not, and a lot of times it's not, but perception is reality. So it doesn't matter if it's true or not, it matters that there's a perception that we need to manage. So the brand platform of Out of Our Blue is rooted really in 6 key brand tone words. And I mentioned that we have to do things that allow us to pull different levers, and that's the way it's built. Probably one of the reasons, well, there's a number of reasons loyalty probably wouldn't have made that list, but because you have to manage and pull that, right? So it actually spells oh dear, so we reference that around the office a lot, oh dear. But optimism, which pains me to include, but as you all know, if you lose optimism in your sports team, you're in trouble. So there has to be a spirit of belief. And the difference for Out of Our Blue, you bring that up, and really what my work has been in the last couple of years, and my continued, I got a lot of work to do on, is this is a brand platform. It's not a marketing campaign. Okay. And our team has never had a brand platform before. We've had marketing campaigns, carry the flag, march with us, all those things. Came out of the marketing department, it drove the message. My job with this brand platform is for an entire organization, top to bottom, to live it and mean it, which is why it's rooted in research and the way it's built, so that you can be authentic. So optimism being part of that, hungry. Listen, we are hungry to win. We want the world to know it. And if you hear other markets talk about what it's like to play our team, even though we don't have the best record, they will tell you we are a hard team to play against. We're hungry to win. We're hungry to be better. We're hungry to win a Stanley Cup. And then my job from a brand platform standpoint is to make sure that every part of what we do in the organization, that we live and breathe that. So we are hungry to be the best foundation, right? To be the best youth hockey program, to be all of that. And so you have to focus on that. And we have to communicate it, and we want people to know, we want people to be part of it. Dynamic. I mentioned we have a great, our in-game experience, we're known for that. Again, we have to try hard. By the way, the one thing none of you ever want to do is be in charge of the music. Okay, no one wins there. But the in-game experience, the canon, the people, the John Davidses of the world, that dynamic side. Again, we're known for that. It's part of it. We want to infuse it. But now our job is to make sure that every interaction you have with the Blue Jackets is dynamic. Reorganize the marketing department and the fan development, working with a fan engagement group. Because when you go out to some festival and you interact with us, I want you to have the same great experience, right? So I think we're doing a great job in the arena. So we want to be dynamic in all things, in every business function, everything that we do. Earnest. Earnest will differentiate us from many other markets and many other teams, and the research will show you how much it differentiates us from other sports teams in the market. It's rooted in history of the Blue Jackets. Mr. McConnell wanted to bring a professional sports team to Columbus, Ohio, not because he loved hockey, because he knew the value of a professional sports team in a community. And so his way, and he has a book, The Golden Rule, The Way of Doing Business, it's earnest. That one's super important to me from a brand perspective, because there are things that our team will not do that you will see other teams do because of that value. If you're a hockey fan, the Carolina Hurricanes is the best example. Great brand, edgy, different. We are not the Carolina Hurricanes, and we will not be the Carolina Hurricanes. Where it comes into play often is on social media and other sides, because when you interact, these brand tone words have to guide every part of the business and define who we are and who we aren't. The other one that's really significant in this market and in the league for us is approachable. So the ability for media, even our own regional sports network, to have access to our players behind the scenes, the things that we do, is pretty unusual. We give incredible access. If I got a request tomorrow to do something, I can probably make it happen, because that's what our team is. That's the way we are. If you're out at Martini's for dinner and you see our captain and you want to walk up and have a conversation, you can absolutely do that. That's not normal, especially where I come from. And so there are things about us in this idea of our approachable. It also translates significantly on social media, because you can interact with our team. And anyone that does follow us should notice a difference, particularly in the last 6 months, because we've made some changes there really to focus on the interaction that the team is having because of that approachable nature. When I was working with the foundation, I got a request from a foundation in Canada. This kid was a Senators fan. He's a goalie. Was coming down for treatment at Ronald McDonald House, but he loves Sergei Bobrovsky, previous goalie of the team. So this foundation person reached out to me and said, look, you know, he's going to be down there for treatments or anything we do. 100%. Absolutely. Of course we do. Because that's what we do. We do things others won't. Singer and I went, we played basketball with the kid at Ronald McDonald House. We took him to a game. It was so fun. Love this family to this day. The response from that foundation and those people in Canada be like, wow, like no one will even, you know, okay, maybe we do it for different reasons, but it's really a part of our identity, who we are, and a part that we want to protect and nurture. And the expectation, if you're going to be an employee or you're going to be a player on our team, is super important. And the last one is relentless. When we went through this process, we used an outside agency, and they come back and they do all this research and then ask a zillion questions. And let me tell you, for anyone that doesn't think that Out of Our Blue was informed by the fans, because not everyone loves it, okay? But let me tell you, it was informed by the fans. You know, the way that process is built, they come back and they say, okay, here's who you are. You're these things. And a learning for me in this exercise was they were prepared, the agency was prepared to move on in that moment. I stopped the meeting. I said, I need time with my team. Just because that's who we are, is that who we want to be? And it was a moment that we needed to have as an organization. Now, the good news is, for the most part, it was. But the one word and one thing we changed, and those that live in the hockey world will appreciate, is the last word was gritty. And they were not hockey people, and they used gritty, and we're like, it's a hockey term. And again, we're not Philly, we're not Boston. We talked about what they were trying to convey, what our fans were conveying, people in our organizations were conveying, and we went back to relentless. For me, that's key for a different place that our franchise is in, because years ago you could watch, and painfully by the second period, when you're out, you're out. Our team is never out. Our team is never out now. That is not who we are, because we are relentless. But tie back brand platform, we're relentless for commitment on the ice and off the ice. We're relentless in our commitment to this community and all things we do. And so that's really the journey that our organization is on from a marketing perspective that we've never really been on before.
We are just about out of time. Any last advice for them if they want to get an internship?
So all of ours are posted on Teamwork Online. Teamwork Online in sports, it really is your friend. If you're going to do that, as a person who's gone through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of applications on that system, I'm never going to open your resume if I don't get past the headline and that intro letter. I'm just not. People will copy and paste all day long. My favorite is Blue Jackets is not one word. You'll be surprised what you're up against. You can get ahead of a lot of competition if you just do a few things. So, you know, take that process seriously. Internships are amazing. We've hired so many people that have had internships with us. You have to be in school, you have to be getting credit in order to do that with us. The one thing I would say in my time, and you know, we have a lot of interns that come to the organization. I always say, schedule a time in the calendar, schedule 30 minutes, come hang out with me. Let's, you know, talk and get to know each other. The amount of interns that actually do that, ridiculous. Okay. Shame, 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 shame. And that's not just me. Really, I would meet with any intern in the entire organization, no matter what department you were in, whether it was one of mine or not. Don't miss that opportunity. When I do sit down with interns and have conversations, it has surprised me. And again, I'm talking to you as my style as a hiring manager in the process. The amount of times people will talk about, you know, well, I'm waiting for this. Well, I'm waiting to see. I need to find something I'm passionate about. Of course, that's the dream. It's a dream you have your whole life is to get to something that you want to do. But as a hiring manager, if you think I want to hire someone that's waiting around, are you kidding me? And the amount of times that comes up in a conversation, be like, well, I'm not really passionate about that, so I'm not going to do that anymore. Well, I worked in retail, but I'm like, okay, what did you do in your time in retail? What did you do? What did you learn? What opportunity did you take in that silly job that you think you had to do more, learn more, right? From inventory management to logistics, that's what I want, right? I want to look across them and be like, hey, I had this opportunity and here's what I did with it. And so there's things you can teach and there's things that you can't teach. And more times than not, honestly, especially on an internship and coming in, your passion, your connection, you as a person, and your fit in culture. Do I want to know that you're doing the right things? 100%. You're going to school, you're taking the court, yeah. But that's just like that's a checkbox. Make the most of the opportunities in front of you, and for heaven's sakes, if you do get an opportunity for access, you need to take it. You need to take it. And I try to have as many of these conversations as I can. You know, all those LinkedIn messages you send people and ask for time, and I'm not sure I could count on one hand how many times I haven't been able to do that. I've done it because people did it for me, but those relationships and the people that I've kept up with who eventually can come back around, even years later now, because I'm getting so old, right?
Experience.
Yeah, and they that old. And so, you know, you just make the most of it. Make the most of it. And the beautiful thing is not everyone is. So it's not as hard to stand out as you might think.
How many of you have met somebody here at Ohio State whose job you may want someday? How many of you have like reached out to them later, introduced yourself? So that is like key. Like the reason that people come here is to hopefully help you move forward. We all would like to be replaced by someone who just wants to do things.
If we're doing our jobs right, we will.
So I hope that you will take advantage of this. Thank you so much, Kathryn. Talking about interns, Dylan Tyler just tweeted something, so talk about a model intern.
Yeah,
Came from
and
here and now is radio host for the Jack.
and perfect example of when we reorged in the spring and made those changes because of that, because of Dylan's experience, and because he can do a number of different things. He can do social, he can go do an interview, right?
Yep.
I mean, obviously he's a great radio host, does great features.
And he's of
Yep.
School of Communication. He was the president of Charlotte Free Sports Radio.
Yeah, but great story. But that kid also came in and did everything, right? Put up his hand. And so from my seat, when I don't work directly with him every day, but I turn around and, you know, I listen to post game on my way home and I hear him and I hear his feature and I hear this and I do that. I'm like, so when the opportunity comes up and the broadcast department comes and says, hey, we want to reorg and do this, I'm like, yeah, that kid's awesome, right? And by the way, the position didn't exist, but the opportunity was there. We had a great kid, so you make stuff happen. So